I was asked a question about maybe core directors and films in the Criterion collection that I would recommend to, I guess, people who are just getting into the Criterion collection and wanting to think about the classics. And they asked me the question in the context of directors. So I guess I could take the opportunity to just name a handful of very quote-unquote famous directors, and I thought I'd just give you maybe two examples from each director, one being the kind of the famous one, or the representative work of this director, perhaps the most famous one. And then maybe another recommendation might be something that might be famous, but maybe not so much as the first one, or maybe it's something that is a little bit off the radar. But I'll just give you two examples from each of these famous quote-unquote directors. And hopefully this might help those of you who are just trying to get into the Criterion collection or trying to expand on your quote-unquote famous directors. So again, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just an example. So I will try to acknowledge that. And of course, for every one director that I name, there are probably 100 directors that I should have named but didn't. So please understand this is just an example. And given the amount of time or lack thereof that I have, this is, again, because I name these and not others doesn't mean I don't like the others, but it's just for purposes of giving examples. So without further ado, let me start with one director is Fellini, Federico Fellini. So he's Italian, and you might know the film 8½, which is a very famous film by Fellini, perhaps his most iconic film. So if you haven't gotten this film yet, or you haven't visited this film, of course, I strongly recommend it. It's actually one of my favorite Criterion films ever, and I would dare say that it's probably on my it's probably on my top 10 list of favorite films of all time. And if you like 8½, and you want to find out, or you want to discover more Fellini, perhaps the next place I would recommend, it's a Blu-ray, is this one, which is La Dolce Vita. Now, La Dolce Vita is 1960, and 8½, is 1963. So this is obviously predating 8½, but it is I think, a wonderful piece. Perhaps some might consider it to be a companion piece to 8½. But if you like 8½, chances are you will really enjoy what La Dolce Vita has to offer. Next is JeanLuc Godard. JeanLuc Godard is French filmmaker, and he's perhaps well known for jump-starting or inaugurating or bringing in the French New Wave with this film in particular, which is À bout de souffle, or Breathless. And so this is highly recommended if you haven't seen it. It is a very accessible film. It is a fun, vibrant film. There are many films by Godard that are in the collection, so it's very hard to pick one or two, but if I were to choose one that is perhaps near and dear to me, and that is perhaps a little bit different, I would probably go with this one. Again, this is my own personal taste, but of course there are many other Godard films that are really wonderful. But for me, this one is really nice. It's a DVD. It's called 2 or 3 Things I Know About Her. 2 or 3 Things I Know About Her. So this is a DVD color film, and it is a film that I think is one for those who like Godard very much. So if you find that you watch Breathless and you really got into Breathless, then this might be one other place that you might consider traveling to. Next is Ingmar Bergman. Now, Ingmar Bergman is, of course, going to be the subject of a very famous, not famous, but it's going to be a very anticipated huge box set from Criterion that's going to be released later this month. But for those of you, and I'm sure there are many of you out there who might not necessarily be considering the box set per se, but just might want to focus on a few of the classic individual titles from Ingmar Bergman. And that is a perfectly fine approach to take. And so I think one of the most iconic Bergman films, there are many, There are many. I could have named Seventh Seal. I could have named Wild Strawberries, but I chose this one, Persona. I think because, well, it's a very famous film, and it's quite a challenging film, and it for many people, it is the epitome of the art house film, the foreign art house film. It's a very challenging, but if one can engage with it, I think it can be an incredibly rewarding experience. With respect to the merits of the film itself. And so Persona, and also a dear friend of mine who sent to me a picture of an acquisition that she got. She actually got Persona, and so I was inspired by her to suggest this in this video today. So if you're watching, I'm very happy for you in Persona. But anyway, Persona by Bergman is one of the iconic classics by Ingmar Bergman. And if you like this film, then perhaps I might suggest, if you haven't seen it already, that you consider getting this film here, which is The Virgin Spring. This is a Blu-ray, and in fact, I haven't broken it out of the plastic wrapping because I still rely on the DVD of The Virgin Spring, which I have on the shelf up there. This is a difficult film to watch, but it is a core film in the Bergman canon. It is one of those troubling films, and it is one film that in the, I think the most profound way, makes me want to consider things that are beyond myself. Next is Akira Kurosawa. Now, Kurosawa is perhaps a filmmaker that needs little introduction, but I know that some people have yet to get into Kurosawa, so if you are one of those people, then welcome to the world of Kurosawa, and perhaps you might consider watching The Seven Samurai. That's one of the miracles of the film itself, is that it goes by so quickly. You never feel the time, and the action is unparalleled, but in fact it is met with equal vigor by the strength of the characters in this film. So it is quite a rare combination indeed, Seven Samurai by Akira Kurosawa. And if you like that, and if you want to get into more Kurosawa, there are many films in the Criterion collection that you can consider, many films that I think are worthwhile. But if I had to choose one more to maybe whet one's appetite, I would suggest actually this one. Now, I hope it's still in print. I think it is, this is a DVD, and this is a film called Stray Dog. This is more like a film noir, steeped in the world of post-war Japan, and it's a really fascinating historical document in that sense, and it is also a very riveting thriller. So if you are interested and you are okay with getting DVD, I would suggest considering watching Stray Dog. Another Japanese director is Yasujiro Ozu, and he is near and dear to my heart, and perhaps his most iconic film is this, which is Tokyo Story. This is I think a film with universal themes, and it is one that is incredibly moving, and it never fails to move me quite deeply whenever I watch it. So this is such a profoundly moving film. If you haven't seen it, I strongly urge you to do so. But if you have, and you like this film, and you want to try to discover more Ozu, then I think there's no better place to continue your Ozu journey than with the film Late Spring. This is I'm having trouble talking about this film at the moment because I'm reminding of certain scenes of the film, and it's quite overwhelming actually just to recall some scenes. It is a very powerful film, and it is a deeply poignant one. So if you are keen to continue with your Ozu journey, please, I beg you to consider looking into late spring for your consideration. The filmmaker from Germany, Rainer Werner Fassbinder, is one that I haven't really spoken too much about in this YouTube channel, but he is one that I just had a huge, well, I still do. I just have a huge affection for his works. I remember when I was in college, I just binged on all the Fassbinder films that I could get my hands on. So, yeah, and among those was Ali Fears the Soul, and I think to this day I still can't shake this from my memory. Every time I think of couscous, I always think of this film very affectionately. And so this is perhaps, I think, his most iconic film and his most, maybe in many ways, his most accessible film, I should say, at least amongst the films that are available in the Criterion collection. So please, for your consideration, Ali Fears the Soul. It's a tender romance. And if you like Ali Fears the Soul, then I must therefore recommend to you the most recent release from Criterion, which is 8 Hours Don't Make a Day, which is a huge, sprawling television work. It's humongous. But again, if you like Ali Fears the Soul, then I am almost positive that you will love 8 Hours Don't Make a Day for your consideration. Let me end it there, and I hope that was okay for you. As I say, I don't intend to showcase all of the great filmmakers within a single video. I think that would be very difficult. So this is just meant to be a small sampling of filmmakers that I think are worth investigating and exploring, especially for those of you who are maybe new to the Criterion collection but want to maybe dip your toe in the Criterion waters, so to speak. So I encourage you to give these filmmakers a try, and also others as well. There are many great iconic films in the Criterion collection, and so if you have any questions or comments about any of the films that I've showcased, or any others for that matter, please let me know in the comments below, and I'd be very happy to address them to the best of my ability. Until we meet again, my friends, please have a great rest of the November, and please watch lots of great films. If you have any more Barnes & Noble Criterion sale stories or updates, please let me know. I am so happy whenever I read those. They really give me a little bit extra pep in my step, so to speak. So I am so grateful for those, so please keep those coming. Other than that, I will try to come back very soon with a Criterion collection video regarding The Silence of the Lambs, and also Dario Argento's Trauma, and maybe some other videos. But until we meet again, my friends, I hope you are well, and please have a great rest of your day. Cheers.